Welcome into today's edition of Just the Truth. Glad to have you join me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. More details are coming out about the controversial Senate border deal that specifies spending at $118 billion, with half of which going to Ukraine. President Joe Biden said he would veto a standalone bill to fund Israel as the House is set to do battle with the Senate over funding for Ukraine and the U.S. southern border, including some funding for Israel as well. 13 Republican governors attended a Sunday media briefing in Eagle Pass, Texas, during which Governor Greg Abbott urged President Joe Biden to take action on the issue of illegal migrant entries into the southern border, particularly into Texas. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley has applied for Secret Service protection because of increasing threats she's received on the campaign trail, Haley's team has confirmed to Fox News. More and more, one of America's favorite fast food sandwiches is becoming involved in presidential politics. McDonalds-based in Chicago has taken heavy criticism over its Big Mac combo that is priced at nearly $18, among other menu hikes, and has promised to focus on affordability, according to the New York Post. But is Joe Biden going to go down in history as the president who allowed the Big Mac to become unaffordable?
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
On our guest line this morning, Senator Tim Scott.
Thank you for listening to one of the best radio shows. Joey, God bless your leadership.
Joey, congratulations on your new show.
I just wanted to let you know that I always appreciate your perspective and your common sense approach to the issues.
You know what? If people like you keep telling us the truth, believe me, we're paying close attention.
Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
More details have emerged on the controversial Senate border deal that specifies spending at about $118 billion, most of which, or actually just over half of which, goes to Ukraine. The long-awaited $118 billion supplemental spending deal, which includes funding for Ukraine, Israel, and measures to stem the historic crisis at the southern border, was released late Sunday by Senate lawmakers. The package has the backing of Senate leaders and the Biden administration, who have said that the funding is for two U.S. allies, $60 billion of which for Ukraine, $14 billion for Israel, coupled with a bipartisan agreement that will provide approximately $20 billion to control illegal immigration at the southern border, which numbers hit a record 2.4 million in fiscal year 2023. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said in a statement, the bipartisan agreement in the Senate is tough, fair, and takes meaningful steps to address the challenges our country faces after decades of congressional inaction. But it faces significant opposition from Republicans and other conservatives who say it does not do enough to tackle the border crisis and stop releases into the interior. Some liberal Democrats have also objected to the bill, arguing that it will hurt illegals seeking asylum. Here are some of the main points of this immigration deal. First off, Border Emergency Authority. At the heart of the deal is a new 3-year authority, similar in some ways to the COVID-era Title 42, remember that? Which allows officials to shut down entries into the U.S. at the southern border. The authority comes into play when there's a rolling 7-day average of 5,000 encounters a day or 8,500 encounters in a single day. If that happens, DHS is mandated to expel all migrants without processing them, with the exception of unaccompanied children. That authority can only end when encounters drop at least 25% for 7 days, and DHS has 14 days to end the authority. However, the president can suspend the authority for up to 45 days and by the third calendar year. The DHS secretary is limited to using it for half the calendar year. DHS can also implement the authority at its discretion when the average number of encounters exceeds 4,000 a day. Does it have to be this complicated? Did you follow all that? It goes on for those who are processed. Single adults are still removed. Family units are released into the U.S., and asylum cases are fast-tracked through U.S. citizenship and immigration services. ICE detention is also increased to approximately 50,000 from a current number of 34,000. Now let's go back to the family units are released into the U.S. You think they're not going to catch on? That, hey, we'll just bring our family members, or even worse, we'll pretend that this is my wife. I'll pretend that these are my children. How do we know if they're truly a family? Work permits. That's a big part of it as well. The bill expedites 2-year work permits for those who are released into the interior, meaning they can work immediately rather than waiting months to receive permits, as is the case now. It's a demand that has been made for months by some of the Democrat mayors in cities like New York and Chicago, where they've seen enormous numbers of illegals. Those permits would be revoked if the illegal is denied asylum upon their hearing. The bill also includes legal requirements that migrants always be provided with information about their rights, including their right to access counsel. I would hope that that would mean their right to access counsel that they pay for. Children will also receive government-funded legal counsel. Yeah, we need to hire lawyers for these illegals, for these people who come into our country illegally. We need to pay for their legal counsel. Asylum rules. The bill tightens the language for the initial credible fear, which is part of the initial screening faced by illegals who claim asylum, as they are being removed via expedited removal, a practice that is expected to expand as part of the bill. Illegals will now be expected to prove reasonable possibility of persecution if returned to their home country, rather than significant possibility as it is now. Again, a play on words. It also moves consideration of bars to asylum, including a criminal conviction, into the initial screening stage rather than leading into the process. It also creates a new eligibility bar known as internal relocation. This means asylum can be denied if the illegal could have sought safety in their home country instead of fleeing to the U.S. Asylum is now expedited with U.S. citizenship and immigration services. The officials being granted the authority in statute to grant asylum rather than immigration judges. It's similar to an asylum rule the Biden administration put into place last year and is expected to reduce the process from years to months again. Because, you know, some of these people now are given a date 2-3 years down the road. They're released into the country with the promise that they'll return 2 years from now. Now, what's the likelihood of that happening? Border funding, staffing. The bill includes billions in funding for additional staff and additional infrastructure at the border, including 1,500 new Customs and Border Protection personnel, over 4,300 new asylum officers, 1,200 new Immigration and Customs Enforcement personnel, ICE, and 100 new immigration judge teams. It also includes $1.4 billion in FEMA funding for non-governmental organizations and cities to help settle illegals, and $650 million to build and reinforce the border wall. $650 million to build and reinforce the border wall. So finally, someone is admitting that maybe we need a wall. It will also provide $450 million to countries to help them remove and integrate illegal immigrants back into their countries. Also provided will be funding for 100 inspection machines to detect fentanyl, accompanied by new laws to prevent fentanyl trafficking in the U.S. Now, that is money well spent. Increased legal immigration pathways is part of the bill as well. Separate from the border, the bill includes work permits and temporary visas for 250,000 documented dreamers. These are children of immigrants on temporary work visas who have since become adults. The bill also raises the cap on the number of green cards by 50,000 a year, the majority of which will be family-based. It also establishes an expedited pathway for Afghans who were evacuated to the U.S. to get green cards. The line is drawn. Now it's just a matter of where the Senate lands on this and what the House does. A number of senators have already expressed their opposition, one of those being Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina. He told Fox News Digital yesterday that he is a definite no vote on the Senate border and immigration deal, arguing that aid to Israel should be siloed off separately and that President Biden already has the power he needs to end the border crisis. Scott said, "I'm a Hades no," when asked if he would support the agreement that was released Sunday evening. Senator Scott also slammed the bill as unsatisfactory and unnecessary. He argued that Biden is already able to secure the border without a power that Scott believes allows too many illegal crossings before it's activated. Biden has said he can't secure the border without fixes to a broken immigration system and additional funding. Senator Scott said, "I think it's such a lie to think Joe Biden needs Congress to act in order for him to secure the border." He also objected to the bill being coupled with $60 billion for Ukraine and the $15 billion for Israel, saying those issues should be debated and passed separately. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line. You can leave me a quick voice message as well, and I'd love to get your emails, joey@joeyhudson.com. According to the Daily Caller, the House is expected to vote on a standalone bill this week that will provide $17.6 billion in aid to Israel while the country is at war with the terrorist organization Hamas. Ahead of the vote, the White House Office of Management Budget called the bill a cynical political maneuver and said Biden would veto the bill if it makes it to his desk. President Joe Biden said he would veto this standalone bill to fund Israel as Congress continues to battle, the House battling the Senate over the next step. In the statement, the Biden administration said the administration spent months working with a bipartisan group of senators to reach a national security agreement that secures the border and provides support for the people of Ukraine and Israel, while also providing much-needed humanitarian assistance to civilians affected by conflicts around the world. Instead of working in good faith to address the most pressing national security challenges, this bill is another cynical political maneuver. The security of Israel should be sacred, not a political game. I would say the same thing applies to our southern border, would you not? Because that's exactly what Biden is doing with funding for the southern border as well. In fact, these three items, the southern border, Israel, and Ukraine, I agree with Senator Scott. They should be three separate votes. Break them down into three. What do you say? 864-477-5639 is the Furman Ford text line. By the way, one final thing on Joe Biden, and we'll move on, I promise. The last Biden gaffe, you know, he has this tendency to see dead people. He's actually talking to someone now. It happened as Biden told a crowd in Las Vegas on Sunday evening at an event that he recently met with Francois Mitterrand, the French president, who has been dead for 30 years now. The comments came while Biden was warning of the dangers of a potential second Trump presidency as he aimed to shore up enthusiasm ahead of this week's Nevada primary. Biden retold a story that he's told many times during his presidency about a meeting he had with French President Emmanuel Macron during a G7 meeting in England some months after Biden had taken over the White House, except in this case, he claimed it was President Mitterrand.
Right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, all the NATO leaders. I was in South England. And I sat down and I said, "America's back." And Mitterrand from France looked at me and said, "You know, how long are you back for?" And I looked at him, and the Chancellor of Germany said, "What would you say, Mr. President, if you picked up the paper tomorrow in the London Times, and the London Times said, 1,000 people break through the House of Commons, break down the doors, 2 bodies are killed in order to stop the election of the Prime Minister. What would you say?" I never thought about it from that perspective. What would we say if that happened in another democracy around the world?
again, Biden thinking, I guess, that he had this conversation with the French president who's been dead for 30 years. Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley has applied for Secret Service protection because of increasing threats she's received on the campaign trail, according to Haley's campaign committee. Let me take a moment to tell you about my journey with PhD weight loss and nutrition. Over 3 years ago now, I was introduced to Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. I went to the Greenville office. They have multiple offices to take care of you. Greenville, Asheville, Charlotte, Lake Norman. And you can do it virtual. If you're listening to me right now, doesn't matter where you live. We've had listeners who have done this in Pennsylvania, like Chuck in Pennsylvania. We've had them in Alabama, Illinois. So it doesn't matter where you are. The team at PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition can always take good care of you. If you're ready to lose weight for the last time, if you're ready to get healthy in 2024, then do like I did. Make that call, 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation, and go in and let the team at PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition talk with you about their program. I promise you, it'll be a call that you'll always thank me for making. If you're listening today and you're still on the fence, I just have one thing to say to you. PhD works. It just plain works. I lost 30 pounds, and I've been able to maintain that for over 3 years now. You too can do the same. You'll be more focused. You'll feel better. You'll have more energy. You'll be sleeping better. You'll be able to do things that you haven't been able to do in many, many years. So make that call today, 864-252-4925. Get it on your calendar, and let's make 2024 the year that you lose the weight and you're able to keep it off. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. So Governor Nikki Haley discussed the request for protection in an interview yesterday after the Wall Street Journal asked the question. Former South Carolina governor said, "We've had multiple issues. It's not going to stop me from doing what I need to do." Haley was asked at a news conference in Columbia about increased levels of security at her events. She told reporters, "When you do something like this, you get threats. It's just the reality." She mentioned that the need to put a few more bodies around us, but that it hadn't affected her campaigning. She said, "At the end of the day, we're going to go out there and touch every hand. We're going to answer every question. We're going to make sure that we're there and doing everything we need to do." Hours after Haley spoke to reporters, a heckler was removed from her campaign event in Hilton Head, South Carolina. As you know, Haley was once a long shot. She picked up some momentum in the polls late summer last year after she received a couple of or did well in a couple of the GOP presidential primary debates. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis dropped out of the race, which pretty much leaves it up to Haley and Donald Trump. She did fairly well in New Hampshire with 43% of the vote after Governor DeSantis dropped out, trailing Trump 11 points. The next major contest, of course, right here in the Palmetto State, Haley's home state, which we hold our primary February 24th. The latest public opinion survey indicates that President Donald Trump has a large double-digit lead. Back before Christmas, we talked about a story speculating that a receipt for a $16 McDonald's meal posted on a TikTok video last year, it had resurfaced, gone viral, serving a taste of how many Americans are battling with the soaring cost of food. And the question I asked then, and it's still a very valid question, will Joe Biden go down in history as the president who let the price of a Big Mac get out of hand? The CEO of McDonald's admitted Monday that the sales for the fast food giant has dipped amid increased menu prices that have not gone unnoticed by customers. I'll give you all the details in just a moment. First, let me tell you about Furman Ford. Are you looking for a new vehicle? Or maybe you'd like a good deal on a pre-owned vehicle that you can trust, or maybe you just need service and you don't want to wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month to get it. You can get all of this at a locally owned dealership in Lawrence, Furman Ford. Just take a look around. Corporations have never been more powerful. Technologies like AI are changing how we do business. It's time for us to support locally run businesses, people who live right here in our communities. Furman Ford is one of those businesses. When you email them, when you call them, when you just stop by the dealership, you'll always have access to a member of the Furman family. Either Jim Furman, Matthew Furman, they're always there to help you navigate some of the great deals they have on some of their big selection of pre-owned vehicles, new vehicles, and again, you can always get that vehicle service, whether you purchased it at Furman Ford or not. Even if it's not even a Ford, they service all makes and models. What you're going to really love, though, is when you drive off the lot, you're going to know that your money has stayed right here in the community, supporting our local community. Let me encourage you to head down to Lawrence to Furman Ford the next time you need to purchase a vehicle or you need service. Find them online at FurmanFord.com, FurmanFord.com. So McDonald's, which is based in Chicago, has taken some pretty heavy criticism over its Big Mac combo that is priced in some markets as much as $18. And they've had other menu hikes as well. The CEO has promised that they're going to focus on affordability, according to the New York Post. CEO Chris Kempczynski said on an earnings call with Wall Street analysts, "I think what you're going to see as we head into 2024 is probably more attention to what I would describe as affordability." Some global same-store sales grew by 3.4%, short of the 4.7% that was expected by Wall Street. In addition, some low-income customers have stopped patronizing the chain as inflation has caused prices to jump. Kempczynski said eating at home has become more affordable. The battleground is certainly with what the low-income consumer can afford. Prices at McDonald's are still expected to increase at a slower pace, restaurant analyst Mark Kolonowski told the New York Post. Last week, a McDonald's location in Connecticut was criticized after a customer was charged $7.29 for an Egg McMuffin and nearly $5.69 for a side of hash browns. Think about that. $5.69 for hash browns. And if you've ever eaten at McDonald's, which I have, I love the Egg McMuffin meal, which comes with hash browns, but it's like a little patty of hash browns. $5.69. The franchise was in Darien, Connecticut. It was called out for charging $17.59 for a Big Mac combo. Fast food prices in general have climbed even higher as minimum wage hikes go into effect across the country. In California, many fast food workers will earn $20 an hour beginning April 1st of this year. McDonald's and Chipotle have signaled that prices will have to increase in response to the higher labor costs. Again, I ask you, could the price of a Big Mac affect Joe Biden's reelection? Is he going to go down as the president who allowed the Big Mac to get unaffordable? On the Furman Ford text line, Carol writes, "I say sanctuary states need to pay for the illegals they invited, and how dare the president hold the border hostage to give more aid to Ukraine. I'm so upset." Carol, we all are upset, and you're right. Funding to Ukraine should be voted on separately. Funding for Israel should be voted on separately. Funding for the border security should be voted on separately. This is an old trick of the Congress to lump all of these things together, and then they try to pit member against member. Michael writes on the Furman Ford text line, "Speaking about the debit cards to New York illegals, I wonder how long it's going to be until we catch a huge fraud on these cards, probably from the people that are distributing them." Michael, it'll be just like COVID funds. When the trillions of dollars that were announced that were spent on COVID over a period of time, you knew that there was going to be misuse. You knew there was going to be abuse. People were going to take advantage of it. And they have billions of dollars we now know were illegally spent by the mafia. I mean, organized crime got involved. It's proven that organized crime made application for COVID funds as, it was just another division of theirs. Texter writes, Nikki Haley is obviously going after the Democrat voters. Saturday Night Live is 100% to the left. Faye left a voice message for us.
Good morning, Joey. Everyone needs to realize that this coming Wednesday in Columbia, there's going to be a vote on whether or not to ban digital currency in South Carolina. And we need for everyone to call their state representative and tell them to please ban it. That's the last thing we need is digital ID. Thanks, Joey.
And thank you, Faye, for making us aware of that. That's tomorrow. Call your representative in Columbia, your house member, or your senator. I asked you yesterday or actually on Friday, I guess it was, to tell me who you would pick as vice president. Tony said Kristi Noem, because he said we're really going to need the independent and suburban votes, and I think she'll bring those votes to the table. Jennifer says, hey, Joey, Kristi Noem was my pick the last time you asked your listeners for their vice presidential picks, and she still is. I think Governor Noem would become the first female U.S. president, and I've always hoped that the first woman would be a Republican. She's a good conservative. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. Franklin says he would choose Senator Tim Scott. By the way, speaking of that, Kellyanne Conway, the former senior advisor to President Trump, in an op-ed that was published on Monday, advised that she would choose a person of color to be his running mate upon receiving the Republican nomination. Conway, of course, was Trump's 2016 campaign manager, later was a counselor in the White House. She listed Senator Tim Scott, Representative Byron Donalds, and Senator Marco Rubio among some of the options. She wrote in the New York Times that Trump's eventual vice presidential pick should be focused on who can help him win the general election and help him govern in a second term. She wrote, with a crisis on the border, economic dissatisfaction, fears about crime, a parents' rights renaissance, and multiple wars and threats across the globe, Mr. Trump's deputy must be able to navigate chaos and challenges at home and abroad. She argued that Trump's running mate would need to be able to mitigate the damage and turn the tables on the issue of abortion. She said Democrats have racked up several key electoral victories in the roughly 2 years since the Supreme Court struck down Roe v. Wade. She went on to write, taking all this into consideration, if I were advising Mr. Trump, I would suggest he choose a person of color as his running mate, depending on vetting of all the possibilities and satisfaction of procedural issues like dual residency in Florida. Not for identity politics in a la Democrats, but as an equal helping to lead an America First movement that includes more union workers, independents, first-time voters, veterans, Hispanics, Asian Americans, and African Americans. Conway, again, in 2016, advocated for Trump to pick former Vice President Mike Pence. She wrote Rubio, Scott, and Donalds would be on the list of potential 2024 running mates, as well as former Trump cabinet official Ben Carson, Representative Wesley Hunt, he's a Republican from Texas, and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, who recently suspended his 2024 campaign. Trump has said, of course, that he has an idea of who he would choose as his running mate, but he's downplayed it, saying that he'll let us know when he makes that final decision. The former president, of course, is leading Joe Biden in a number of national polls, as well as polling out of key swing states like Michigan, Arizona, Georgia. Biden is leading Trump in Pennsylvania, according to a recent poll there. Conway predicted Trump will keep us all guessing with his eventual choice. Now, you do know that he mentioned just this past weekend, he mentioned Tim Scott's name. Kind of jokingly said that he would give us a little hint. And he named Tim Scott, and he also named Kristi Noem. So, maybe, just maybe, they're starting to lay the groundwork for a Tim Scott vice presidency. What do you think? 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. From my email inbox, got an email from Silver, who had actually posted this on Facebook, and someone had emailed it to me. Ordering a pizza in 2024. It goes like this. Caller, is this Pizza Hut? Google, no sir, it's Google Pizza. Caller, I must have dialed the wrong number, sorry. Google says, no sir, Google bought Pizza Hut last month. The caller says, okay, I'd like to order a pizza. Do you want your usual, sir? Google asked. Caller, my usual, you know me? Google said, according to our caller ID data sheet, the last 12 times you called, you ordered an extra large pizza with 3 cheeses, sausage, pepperoni, mushrooms, and meatballs on a thick crust. The caller says, super, that's what I'll have. Google says, well, may I suggest that this time you order a pizza with ricotta, arugula, sun-dried tomatoes, and olives on a whole wheat gluten-free thin crust. The caller says, what? I don't want a vegetarian pizza. Google responds, well, your cholesterol is not good, sir. The caller says, what the? How do you know that? Google responds, well, we cross-referenced your home phone number with your medical records. We have the result of your blood test for the last 7 years. The caller says, okay, but I don't want your rotten vegetarian pizza. I already take medication for my cholesterol. Google says, well, excuse me, sir, but you've not taken your medication regularly. According to our database, you purchased only a box of 30 cholesterol tablets once at Lloyd's Pharmacy 4 months ago. Caller says, I bought more from another pharmacy. Google says, that doesn't show on your credit card statement. The caller says, well, I paid in cash. Google, but you did not withdraw enough cash according to your bank statement. The caller says, well, I have other sources of cash. Google then says, that doesn't show on your latest tax returns unless you bought them using an undeclared income source, which is against the law. The caller said, what the heck? Google says, I'm sorry, sir. We use such information only with the sole intention of helping you. The caller says, enough already. I'm sick of Google, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, and all the others. I'm going to an island without the internet, TV, where there is no phone service and no one to watch me or spy on me. Google says, I understand, sir, but you need to renew your passport first. It expired 6 weeks ago. Welcome to the future. Thank you, Silver, for emailing that. Your email is welcome as well, Joey at joeyhudson.com. 13 Republican governors attended a Sunday media briefing in Eagle Pass, Texas, during which Governor Greg Abbott urged President Joe Biden to take action on the issue of illegal migrant entries along the southern border. I'll tell you all about that in just a moment. First, portions of today's show made possible by Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Whether you're replacing a broken appliance or you're just upgrading to enhance the look and feel of your home when you're ready, you sure don't want to have to wait weeks or months to get them, right? Well, you're not going to have to when you shop at Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens. There's never any shipping or supply issues. They have over 1,500 appliances in stock. You can buy today quite often. Use it today as well. I'm talking 11,000 square feet, slam full of appliances. And with their expert installation, the award-winning service department, and by the way, we had an issue with our refrigerator. I texted over there just yesterday. They'll be out on Thursday to take a look at it. That's just how good they are. They service what they sell, and they make you just feel like part of the family. You're more than a credit card swipe to Discounted Appliance Warehouse. Let me encourage you, if you're looking to purchase new appliances, a refrigerator, washer and dryer, a new dishwasher, or maybe you're just upgrading the entire kitchen, Discounted Appliance Warehouse in Pickens is the place you need to be going. Find them online at dawpickens.com, dawpickens.com. So Governor Greg Abbott intensified his feud with Joe Biden and the Biden administration over runaway immigration issues, demanding immediate actions to stop the flow of illegal immigrants crossing the southern border. Abbott's critique of Biden's handling of border security was unreserved, I guess you could say. He accused the administration of neglecting its duties, emphasizing the responsibility that falls now squarely on the federal government to uphold the nation's laws, saying that Texas will do whatever it has to do in its power to defend its border.
We are here to send a loud and clear message that we are banding together to fight to ensure that we will be able to maintain our constitutional guarantee that states will be able to defend against any type of imminent danger or an invasion.
Now, as you know, the confrontation between the two governors has been brewing for some time, with Texas taking steps to curb illegal crossings. State authorities have restricted U.S. Border Patrol access to Shelby Park, which is in Eagle Pass. Abbott has said that because of some of the actions they've taken, that they've seen some significant drops in local illegal entries. He has deployed the razor wire barriers. He has put the buoys in the center of the Rio Grande, and he did not hesitate to invoke constitutional rights in defense of his actions, while also accusing Biden of facilitating unauthorized entry into the country. This sentiment wasn't echoed. He wasn't alone. He had other governors there. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who was very critical of the federal government's inaction, which compels states to take matters into their own hands. She's saying because of Biden's failures, governors are put in an awkward position.
It's very clear that this is not just a fight that Texas is having. This is a fight that all of us have to engage in.
And also, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp echoed Governor Sanders, saying every state is a border state.
Every state in our country now is a border state. They're coming to every state in the country, and every governor's having to deal with it. If our border is not secure, our country is not secure.
Governor Abbott was joined by Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who you just heard, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, who you just heard, Idaho Governor Brad Little, Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb, Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry, Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves, Missouri Governor Mike Parson, Montana Governor Greg Gianforte, Nebraska Governor Jill Pillen, New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee, and Utah Governor Spencer Cox, according to a release released by Governor Abbott's office. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Appreciate you joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list, let me ask you to do so. Just go to my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails with the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Just search Joey Hudson or send a quick text, and I'll send you a link for the YouTube channel as well. Thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Keep your comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-5639. I love the emails as well, joey@joeyhudson.com. We're back again tomorrow. Until then, remember, folks, God's got this. He's still in control.